Welcome to this webinar on writing briefing notes for the BC Public Service. Before we get started, I would like to take a few moments to acknowledge the traditional territory we are learning on. I would like to acknowledge that today we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Esquimalt and Songhees people. We thank them for allowing us to meet and learn on their territories today. Let's get started. In these videos, I will share tips and strategies for making writing briefing notes easier and more efficient. There will be exercises in the videos along with handouts. And if you don't have the handouts, I would encourage you now to pause the video and go get the link on the course landing page. As we go through the videos together, you will notice I encourage you to pause. This is to give you time to consider the issues and come up with your own answers. Let's get started. This video series has three main sections which reflect the process of writing a briefing note. The first stage is preparing. Some would say that preparation might even be the most important step of the briefing note writing process. The second stage is the writing. Writing the briefing note is obviously important, and we will cover some techniques to improve your writing. The last stage is editing. You always want to leave yourself some time for editing, as editing is where the quality and conciseness of your briefing note emerge. Now let's go to the learning objectives. In this video series, we will learn how to identify the components of an effective briefing note, recognize the importance of identifying the purpose and audience for a briefing note. We'll look at the logical flow of content. We will learn how to apply tips for clear and concise writing, and we will recognize the value of editing in the writing process. Hi, my name's Kara Thompson, and I'll be your facilitator for this series of videos. I worked in the public sector for 14 years at senior levels, both reading and writing briefing notes. So I want to reassure you that I'm very familiar with your struggles in trying to write an ideal briefing note. However, I'm happy to offer you some solutions. So you might ask yourself, what's a briefing note for? The first type of briefing note is for information. This is to inform an audience of the ministry's official position. This might be for a new minister coming in that needs to know everything about the ministry's position, or it could be that a recent event changed the ministry's position and the audience needs to be updated. The second type of briefing note is for when you are seeking a decision. This is sometimes called a decision note. This kind of briefing note needs to be able to accurately describe the issues, give options and recommendations, and request that a decision be made. Okay, so now that we know what briefing notes are for, let's go to our first exercise. For exercise 1, I'm going to read out the questions for you, and then I'm going to have you refer to your first handout. The handout for this exercise says handout 1 on the top. I'm going to read the questions on the slide, and then I would like you to pause the video and keep the questions in mind as you read your handout. Number 1, what type of briefing note is this? 2, who is the audience that will be reading this briefing note? 3, what is the purpose of this briefing note? And 4, what does your audience need to know? Welcome back. Let's go through the briefing note together. First of all, what type of briefing note is this? Well, you can see it's an information note. That's pretty easy and clear. It's right at the top. But it is important to clearly identify in a few keywords what the issue is. Second, who's the audience of this briefing note? It's a minister, but minister of what? In the analysis section, it does refer to central services, so that indicates it's the Minister of Central Services. What is the purpose of this briefing note? The issue line says, information on food procurement in Onatoba government. Perhaps it should be a bit more specific, saying something like information gathering, but it's okay. You can see where I've indicated the answer. And that is to inform the Minister of Central Services about what's being done by her ministry on the collection of information about government food procurement. That's the purposes of this briefing note, to make sure the minister knows what her ministry is doing in this initiative. What does the audience need to know? So if the purpose is to inform the minister about information gathering on government food procurement, you need to ask, what does the minister currently know about this topic? So what's the most recent up-to-date information on this topic? And what is Central Services' role in this initiative? Also, who's involved in this initiative? And importantly, does the minister need to take any kind of action or do anything in relation to this initiative? For a briefing note to be effective, it should have these elements. It should have a clear focus that's immediately apparent. It should address the needs and interests of your audience. It should be easy to read. It should provide reliable, relevant, and comprehensive information. It should be concise and as short as possible. And it should also provide compelling reasons for recommendations. Now on to the practical application of this slide. Please refer to handout 2. Keep the elements of an effective briefing note in mind as you pause the video and read through your handout. You can refer back to this slide as you read the briefing note content. Welcome back. You've now gone through the briefing note excerpt handout and considered if it has these qualities. Does it have a clear focus? Well, mostly. The issue line says adopt new tracking code system for inventory, and perhaps it should say information about that. Does this address the needs of the audience? Who is the audience? We can see it's the Deputy Minister, so what are her needs? She needs to know about why the current inventory tracking system isn't good and what it should be changed to. She also needs to know all the factors to consider in switching, especially risks and how much money it might cost. Is this easy to read? Well, mostly it is. We can see there's good use of headings in this briefing note along with sections and white space, and it may be a little bit formal. You will notice that briefing note writing is always a balance between not too formal and not too casual. Is it reliable and relevant? It seems reliable. It has information about other governments and research done by a cross-ministry working group. So yes, I would say it's reliable and relevant since our own cross-ministry working group has done the work. Is this briefing note comprehensive? Yes, it is longer and it does convey quite a bit of information. So it does a good job of that. Is this briefing note concise? No, it is not short, but sometimes briefing notes may need to be a little longer to convey all the information. Is the briefing note compelling? Well, it does explain why it would be a good idea to switch. However, there's no urgent driver that suggests a change needs to happen right away. If you have a similar briefing note situation, you may wish to give deadlines or some kind of other drivers. If there is no driver, a decision may not get made in a timely way. As you look through slides 13, 14, and 15, you can see I've used the different colors to highlight the different aspects of an ideal briefing note. Take a moment now, pause, and look through those slides to see what I'm talking about. Now we're going to look at the writing process. Prepare is the first stage of the process of writing a briefing note. In some ways, preparation is the most important part of the process as it puts the right focus on your briefing note. If you take the necessary time to prepare, you will end up writing less and in a more focused way. As you write your briefing note, the most important thing to understand is the objective of the briefing note. If you understand the objective, which is the purpose of the briefing note, you can provide your audience with what they need. If you don't know the objective, you might waste time floundering around and come up with the wrong focus. And worst of all, you might possibly fail to produce a useful briefing note. When establishing your objective, you need to think through these questions. Who's your audience? What do they need to know? If it's a committee with different types of people from different areas, you may have to write at a different level. For instance, you may have to give more background if your audience doesn't all have the same amount of information on the issue? Does your audience need to take action? If yes, what action and how do they do that? What does your briefing note need to do? It might be set out all the options and recommend the minister does nothing, or it might be inform the executive committee that more information is needed at this time. If it is make sure that the minister takes action, then it must be compelling enough to ensure that the minister does take action. What does your briefing note need to do? If it needs to provide information, you need to provide the most relevant and up-to-date information that you have. Does it need to provide options? If it does, provide the most relevant options based on the best information and evidence you can locate within the time you have to write that briefing note. Remember, it is up to the decision maker to make the decision, so give them some options they can genuinely choose from. If you favor one option too strongly, that can backfire. Remember, with your options, you should have the status quo. So remember that do nothing is always an option. You should have a good case scenario, so how you can realistically solve the problem, listing how many resources and what kind of budget you would need. And you should always have a compromise good case scenario. So what resources and budget do you think you might likely get? Do you need to provide recommendations? If so, provide the most reliable, relevant recommendations that you have with the highest level of expert advice you can get, again, within your timelines. Remember that if a decision maker is making a decision based on the information and recommendations you provided, there may be a lot at stake, including their political reputation. If you've asked yourself these questions and you still don't know the objective of your briefing note, please seek clarification from others. If you've not gotten the clarity you were seeking from those you are working with, you may need to reach out to other areas. Some of the issues in your briefing note may have a big impact, and you will need to know how that affects your audience. You can reach out to finance if you have concerns around how much a solution or mitigation might cost, or how much it might cost to do nothing. You can reach out to communications if your topic is in the news. If it's subject to public scrutiny, find out if your communications area is involved. They may wish you to contextualize the issue in a certain way. If there's some level of risk associated with your issue, you can reach out to risk management. You may need to talk to experts there to get the appropriate risk allocation information for your audience. Other business areas or other ministries may have already dealt with your issue. Either way, see what you can learn from those ministries or business areas. Sometimes, depending on your issue, you may want to reach out to another organization outside of government, depending on your issue. What do you think are the 2 key things the audience of your briefing note needs to know? The answers are reliable information, and if your briefing note is to have a decision made, it's the process to make that decision. Reliable information is key for your briefing note. Your audience must be able to trust the information they are reading since they don't have the time to go into depth on the topic. They're trusting you as the expert, and that's why you've been asked to prepare the briefing note. So if you feel you don't have enough information or reliable expert evidence, keep searching. Use the best, most reliable information you have access to within your timelines. Remember, a late briefing note is just like no briefing note at all. Decision makers are busy, and your job is to make it very easy for them to inform themselves of the issues and know how to take the action they need to. So you need to spell out what they're required to do and why, and spell out the process very clearly. Give them a step-by-step instruction. Also set out deadlines explicitly. Let's go back now and look at our audience again in more detail. So who is your audience? Do you know much about them? Do you know what they know about your issue? Are they new to their role? Do they have very strong opinions about your issue? Is your audience a group of people? You need to know all of these things, or your briefing note might not be relevant to your audience. What is their prior knowledge of this issue? Do they have specific interests related to it? And do they have a specific attitude toward it? What is your audience's current knowledge on this topic? Is this a subject they know really well or not at all? Or perhaps it's a new topic for them? You need to be asking, why is this an issue now? What is the current state of affairs? Other things to consider are there timeline pressures? Are there other pressures from the auditor, say from the media or public? Another issue is, what are the resources required to address this? How much of a budget do you need? How many people do you need? Are there legal implications for this? These are all questions you need to ask about your audience's current knowledge. Is your audience interested in this topic? And why is this significant to your audience now? Is there a current event triggering this? Is there some kind of risk to their personal reputation or to their business area? Is this a ministry priority? These are all questions to ask yourself when determining this. Does your audience have a pre-existing attitude towards this topic? Does it, for instance, make them angry, or do they seem not concerned about it at all? If they happen to have an extreme attitude, you may have to write your briefing note in a different style to be compelling to them. Other things to think about are, will this be viewed as a problem or as an opportunity by them? And how can you respond to any of their concerns? Can you mitigate risks? And can you also demonstrate how they can have positives out of this and also see them as opportunities? These are all questions you need to be asking yourself. Now that we've discussed your audience, we need to talk about what kind of key content you can generate to go into your briefing note. So what's your key content going to be? It's going to be your objective, plus reliable information, plus the process, if there's a process that needs to be followed. So let's review. Your objective is what your audience and decision maker needs to know or do. The reliable information is whatever you've been able to uncover in the time you have. And the process is any process a decision maker needs to follow to do what they need to do. One strategy to determine what you should include as key content is using the SPAN logic model. You can use this acronym to help you remember the types of questions you need to ask yourself for your briefing note. S stands for situation. What is the issue? P stands for problem. What problems are arising because of this issue? A stands for alternatives. Are there any alternatives that you can present? N stands for needs. What needs to happen to solve the problem caused by the situation?